Welcome back, everybody. Mike McConville here, Stratford, Ontario, Canada, StringTechWorkstations. What we have here is a beautiful handmade guitar. Now, Nick made this guitar. First guitar he's ever made. Beautiful detail. Look at the sound hole and all the beautiful abalone around the edge and the purfling. He's got an H&H acoustic electric system in, but he's had problems tuning the guitar. So when Nick dropped this off on Saturday, we took some time and kind of went over some of the issues with the tuning. And we discovered right away that the two outside strings were perfectly in tune. The other issue was this saddle that was in there didn't have the proper curvature to match the fingerboard. So the saddle I put in does have the exact curvature of the fingerboard. Took a tracing off the last fret and then scribed across the crown of that saddle before I put it in. So what we have here is every single string all the way across is right to the leading edge of the saddle. The two outside E's are perfectly in tune. The B is sharp, can bring that back. Lots of real estate to bring that B string back to get that to intonate. But this is a problem. We're 4 cents flat on the G, 6 cents flat on the D, and 6 cents flat on the A. So the third, the fourth, and the fifth string all need to come forward to intonate. Well, you know something? We've run out of room. This is right on the leading edge. So we have two choices. We can either fill in the saddle slot and re-slot, or we can make a cantilevered compensated saddle like I've done before on Martins and Gibsons and all kinds of guitars. And we're going to go that route. And I'm going to walk you through this, how I do a compensated saddle. From what I understand, I believe he had Mark Beneteau put a Brazilian rosewood fingerboard on it, and he did a phenomenal job. But there's still some issues with this guitar. He constantly had issues trying to keep it in tune, and apparently he'd been to 4 other shops to try and sort this out. So although it's an absolutely gorgeous guitar and the workmanship is phenomenal, I mean all of the abalone and purfling around the edge and the Brazilian rosewood bridge and now Brazilian rosewood fingerboard, but if it doesn't stay in tune or you can't tune it, then all those bells and whistles don't mean a lot. But we're bringing this right up to snuff, and when we're done it will be more in tune than 99% of the guitars out there. So one thing that did need to be addressed is this high spot on the treble side of the fingerboard right here. It's actually a two-way truss rod. So I backed it all the way off to the neutral zone after I released the string tension through the neutral zone and kept on going counterclockwise until I actually pulled the neck up a little bit to get it as straight as possible before we go any further. So there's just that irritating spot. No matter what I did with the truss rod, that was still a high spot. Is the fret lifting? No, it's not lifting. It's rock solid. So we're now ready to dress full length re-crown and polish, and I can see from the fretwear that Nick has logged a lot of hours in on this guitar. He's played the thing, but the reason he showed up at my shop was it's been a never-ending battle to try and get the thing to regulate. I'll bring you in nice and close for a look at that compensated saddle. Compensated nut is done. We're going to dress, re-crown, and polish, and then we're definitely on the home stretch with this one. The constant issue with this guitar was he couldn't tune it. He could not stabilize and intonate the tuning. Well, if you look closely here, you can see what I've done is I've cantilevered the saddle past the slot for the D, G, and A strings to get this to tune perfectly. The low E was okay. It came within the confines of the existing bridge slot. The high E just barely made it, and the B was fine. It was back into the depth of the slot. So we made this new compensated cantilevered saddle with the proper radius to match the fingerboard. Okay, so that was one issue of several that had to be addressed to get this guitar to play perfectly in tune. So let me continue. As always, the lay of the neck and the action tied in with the proper radius at the focal point on the saddle to match the fingerboard, and of course the actual focal points on the saddle for each string all the way across to guarantee that it's in tune. It's all of these things combined that come into play to regulate the guitar so that it plays beautifully and plays accurately in tune. Now, there was a couple of high spots here that I ended up dressing in order to be able to get that action down close enough to, to get this type of playability. Like I said previously in the video, I mean, Nick, he took a lot of time to, to really do a lot of detail and abalone and beautiful abalone and purfling and abalone around the sound hole and the torch inlay in the headstock. But again, no disrespect, but all of that stuff doesn't really mean much if the guitar doesn't play in tune, which it does perfectly now, and you'll hear it in a minute. But before I go there, I want to explain completely all of the things that I had to do to get this guitar to behave 100% and to play as smoothly and as accurately as it does right now. After Nick had completed the guitar, he found that the neck was a little bit bigger than he liked. He had a fella sort of trim the neck down for him. Unfortunately, this guy went a little bit too far. It actually had an adverse effect, making the neck too flexible. After spending the time with a very good luthier to sort of build the guitar, and then after the fact sort of readdressing these issues, he went to the second guy that kind of sanded the neck down. So to correct this problem with the neck being too flexible, he brought the guitar to Mark Beneteau, who's a spectacular builder, a world-renowned builder, and he put a Brazilian rosewood fingerboard, like a thicker fingerboard, to increase the tensile strength and stiffen that neck up. So Mark did a flawless job on a Brazilian rosewood fingerboard, but there was still tuning issues. From what I understand, Nick went to another guy, I believe it was in Welland, he said, that is also quite reputable and does good work. It's my guess, I don't know for sure, but I guess he kind of ran out of real estate on that bridge, because this bridge slot was not in the right place and there wasn't enough room, as you saw earlier, to actually intonate the guitar. Also, the radius of the saddle that was in previously was not radiused for a perfect match to the fingerboard radius. So lastly, we made a compensated nut. Now this is set up for EJ16s, or 12 to 53 strings at concert pitch. So each string is intonated all the way across. Between the cantilevered compensated saddle in the bridge and the fretwork and proper truss rod adjustment, we got just enough load on there to get the perfect amount of relief. The action is nice and close. I've run into this many times before with a handmade guitar. The nut was pretty tricky because the geometry is it's kind of all over the place. It doesn't sit squarely in the slot. It's kind of curved on both sides to the neck. Anyway, we've got a perfect fit, so it doesn't really matter. So now we've got all of the notes, all of the frets, all of the chords. This thing is perfectly in tune for the first time since it was made. So now comes a moment of truth. Let's hear just how accurate this guitar is now. We'll just start with a few of the same chord with different inversions across the length of the neck. Here's an A major 7. D major 7. E major 9, G, C, and here's D. It wasn't a matter of one or two quick tweaks to get this thing to behave. There was a multitude of things that needed to be done to get this to behave 100% like this. It's not just that it plays perfectly in tune, but it's really a nice guitar to play now too. Very smooth action anywhere in the neck. Okay, let's walk you through the proverbial tuning tests. So we'll start with the open string and first fret notes all the way across all 6 strings. is the open string in octave, 12th fret. Now 5th fret and corresponding 17th fret. So now that we went through the string to string, fret to fret tuning, I know it's kind of painstaking for all of you that have seen me do this so many times before, but I felt that after all that Nick has been through with his guitar, I wanted to give him a point to point on exactly how accurate this guitar is tuning now. So I've got a couple of things I'm going to loop. So the first part of this is... and then I've got a second part over that. Once again, we got kind of 3-note chords in 2 completely different parts of the neck, different strings, different positions, just to let you kind of hear those chords played together. So I've got that looped. We're going to let that play. Finally, after building the guitar, on the 5th destination that he arrived at to get this guitar to behave completely. So now, Nick, you can just relax and play and enjoy this beautiful guitar that you've built. Cheers.